So I have about 100 miles on the new transmission now and the new clutch. So I'm still in the break-in period for the clutch anyways. But that being said, I'm also still trying to learn how to drive with this clutch. This is a Stage 2 STi clutch, and it's a little brutal compared to a stock WRX clutch. If you guys aren't aware, this is a JDM V7 STi transmission, which we didn't get in the States. I'll let you guys hear the short gear ratio. I have tools in the back, so if you guys hear any noises, that's what it is. Plus I have all my welding gear back there because I just got out of class for welding. But yeah, this transmission is pretty good. It drives very smooth. That's fifth gear right there. Fifth gear at 45 miles per hour and 2.7 RPMs-ish. So yeah, the gears are very tight. Sixth gear in this is about a little shorter than the fifth gear in a WRX 5-speed. Right now I like it. I like it a lot. I'm still trying to get used to the clutch. Like I said, its grab point is extremely low. Whereas before on my WRX, the clutch grabbed all the way up at the top, but now that it grabs down low and it grabs hard, it's a very bitey, grippy clutch, which is a good thing. I just got to get used to it. But yeah, I really like the transmission overall. I mean, the install, I'll make a separate video with a hell of a lot more detail on the install, but for right now I just want to talk about you know, how it drives, and I like it. It has a longer throw because this is the factory shift knob, which is what I wanted. It's just nice, man. I can't explain. It's like if you get your 5-speed and you shorten all the gears by about 500 RPMs, like you close the gap between each gear by about 500 RPMs, that's how it is. Like first to second in the 5-speed has about a 1,500 RPM difference. And on the 6-speed, there's a 1,000 RPM difference between first and second, which is better. And every other gear has about a 500 RPM difference, at least with this gearbox. So I'm always in the power band. When I downshift, it's simple. When I upshift, it's not like I'm bogging the engine because it's only 500 RPM difference. Like that downshift right there, like it's just right where you want it. There's not this big gap where you need to really, you know, kick the throttle to get a good rev match downshift. And like I said, when you shift, you really can't bog the engine unless you're short shifting like heavily. But if you're just driving regularly around town, you're always within the power band. Like I said, on the 5-speed, there being a 1,000 RPM gap between gears, and between first and second, there being a 1,500 RPM gap. It's like, unless you know, revved out your motor when daily driving, which is weird to do, and it just felt awkward, especially when your car is loud. Still trying to get used to that clutch. It grabs so low. It also doesn't help that I am still learning a new clutch with work boots on. I know, I'm making excuses. I'll get used to it. I can't really beat on the car yet though. Like I said, I'm in the break-in period with my clutch. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. So that's fine, because I need time to learn it anyways before I start dumping it and shit. But yeah, like I said, the only downside I could see is highway driving. And since highways generally move at about 70 to 80 miles per hour, at least in my area, I'm gonna be about 3,500 to 4,000 RPMs in 6th gear at around 80 miles per hour. So Thankfully, I don't really drive on the highway that often. Everywhere I go, I always take back roads because, one, less traffic, and two, I enjoy back roads more than highway driving. Another downside I have right now, if you guys don't remember, my 5-speed was pretty decked out in terms of bushings and linkages and stuff like that. Like, I had all the bushings you could possibly get for the 5-speed, and I had all the linkages you can update. This is completely factory, so it's a very wobbly. I don't know if you guys can see the wobble. It's a very wobbly, and this is factory. That's just Subaru in general. And like I said, it's a longer throw. I had a short shifter in my 5-speed. This is just a regular shifter, which sits up pretty high. So again, I'm used to the crisp shifts. Unfortunately, the 5-speed's front shifter bushings weren't compatible with this. Neither is the linkage update, I don't think anyways. The rear bushing is compatible. But that rear bushing doesn't do nearly as much as the front bushing. Oh man, it's so good. It's such a big difference. And I have so much to talk about with the install. There's so much to talk about. It collectively took me about 15 hours to do the install. And that's with helping hands. My uncle, my dad, my brother. I had a car lift, I had a transmission lift. I had plenty of tools. I had air guns, air tools. I had the tools and I had the knowledge to do it. It was just a matter of never doing it before and missing some parts. There's just some stuff that, you know, I always preach about doing your research before doing installs, and that only gets you so far, because especially when you start adding Japanese parts into the mix, because they are different. There's untreaded territory. There's just so much to it. And it wasn't just a transmission swap. It was, you know, we changed out the clutch, upgraded that. So there was a cover on the bottom of the bell housing on the WRX that you had to take off, because the flywheel would actually hit that cover, because, like I said, the pressure plate is a little bigger on the STi than it is on the WRX. And that's something that I didn't know. You know, I read so many forum posts and so many videos on how to swap a 6-speed into an STi or WRX, but it really didn't matter, because there's a lot of things that you run into that just aren't documented online. So you have to kind of adapt and learn. There's a lot I'd like to share with you guys, because I fucking hate that this Subaru community that is super tight and willing to help each other lacks all this documentation and knowledge of all these installs and swaps. I know it's been done before, but you're not going to be able to find a thread about it. You're going to be able to find a very general thread on a very general swap a 6-speed into a WRX. That is way too broad of a term, because although Subarus are like Legos and you can swap out almost every part on them, there are subtle and very important changes over the years, especially when you're talking about JDM versus USDM. And it just bugs me when you see these cool cars online and these guys showing their build threads, but they don't talk about the install, or if they do, it's very like minor, very shallow, like there's no detail in it. And that's all I ask for is detail. Please, if you're gonna write a build thread or an install thread, you need to talk about all the problems you ran into. You need to talk about everything you did. I don't need pictures or videos, I just need to know, you know, through words, what it took to get the job done. And that's what I plan to do with this. I'm gonna write forum threads, I'm gonna make a video about it, I'm gonna do it the right way, so people in the future who perhaps stumble upon a JDM 6-speed, these are cheaper to find than USDM STi 6-speed. They're just cheaper. So it's honestly a good idea to look into the JDM 6-speed. The only downside to them, really, if you're on the highway a lot, a downside would be the shorter ratio. 6th gear is pretty short. It's a little shorter than the fifth gear in the 5-speed. Another downside might be the lack of a center diff controller, which I don't care about. I don't track my car. I personally enjoy the 50-50 torque split. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not chasing lap times. I'm fine with this. No, I just need a stronger gearbox with a beefier clutch, and this is great. So for someone who stumbles upon a JDM V7, there isn't that much information out there, unfortunately. So I'm looking to change that. With these tight gears, it's just easier to accelerate smooth and fast. With the 5-speed, there was such a gap between gears. Yes, there's less shifting, but you also have to realize that if you have a front end intercooler and a slightly bigger turbo, you're adding more lag. So the bigger the gap between gears, the more time it takes for you to get back into your power band. So, you know, I'm talking about like just accelerating around town, like revving out to like 4,500 RPMs just to get around something. That's fine, but when you shift from first to second, you're settling down to 3,000 RPMs, which is kind of low for a low compression, slightly larger than stock turbo car, you know what I mean? And with the 6-speed, every gear is tighter, so when you shift, you're right back into that power band. Now you guys get to see how shitty our roads are down here. What a joke. So the install, like overall, I just want to say, isn't for the faint of heart. Doing it in a driveway on jack stands, I don't think I could have done it. Just because if you run into issues where you need to like get certain like leverage on something or torque on a bolt, or you need to be able to position yourself a certain way so you can see somewhere that might, you know, be holding you up. Man, if you can get yourself a car lift or rent one or something, if you know someone with one, I highly recommend that, because I personally don't think I could have DIY'd it in a driveway on jack stands or in a garage on jack stands. You'd have to get pretty darn high on those jack stands, because this is not a small transmission and it is not light at all. It is close to about 200 pounds, it's close there. So yeah guys, hopefully that gave you an idea of what it's like now, and I'll make a better video talking about it later. But for now, that's about it. Any questions, don't hesitate to ask, because I will answer. You know me. And that's about it, guys. Peace out.